You talked about a pivot, and I want to go back because it sounds like you're really in the industry, like you're working like for someone else, and now you've moved into working for your own business, finding your own unique space, but also attracting through flow rather than force. What
Mhm.
was it like making that shift? Because I can imagine it's probably not easy, right? Like it's a lot of should I do this? Maybe there's more safety here. What called you to it, and what gave you the courage to actually move forward in that?
So, what the way that I market, the way that I speak, the way that I present myself and express myself is very different from the rest of the financial industry. And when I was in a corporate setting or more corporate setting, I worked for a large broker dealer, a franchise group of that large broker dealer, and they have, I don't know, 20, 15, 20,000 advisors total in this company. So compliance has to be really tight. You got to be in your box. No one can come out of the box very much, right? It's just like little tiny bits. And a big piece of why I left, why I created X Squared Wealth Planning was because I couldn't be me and it wasn't working. I was not, I would get clients because they knew me, right? And they'd be like, "Oh, you're a financial advisor. Will you help me?" And that was great. And that's continued as well. But I couldn't say things even in my own language, right? That the company would come back and be like, "You have to delete that LinkedIn post," or "We deleted it for you because you can't change the language in that way." And so when I launched X Squared back in 2021, that was a big piece of it was to be able to be me. Then being in the independent space, working with a boutique, Juncture Wealth Strategies is the boutique RIA that backs me up. And we have 5 advisors and a compliance officer there that I go, "Hey, Jack, this is what I'm doing." And he's cool, sounds great. Don't make any promises. Don't tell anyone like to buy this particular stock and you're good. I'm like, great, thank you. So just that, even at the very beginning, like having this, it felt like an open road. It felt like I had just go, just be you. So starting from there, I got to experiment. I got to try a lot of different things. And I was still trying to be, right? I'm supposed to gather assets under management. I'm supposed to just be a financial advisor. That's my lane. That's what I am, quote unquote. And from the very beginning, it just didn't feel like enough. It didn't feel deep enough. It didn't feel like I was connecting with people enough in the way that I love to, in the way that I love to go deep with people, understand their business, understand who they are. And to our conversation, so everyone should really go listen to the first episode because we talked about this too. Deepening with a mentor, writing a check for a mentor, like investing in a mentor in a big way. That's the same thing that I did in the very end of 2020, beginning of 2021. And I was noticing how much that was changing and shifting me. And that was the same thing that I wanted to bring to my clients was that mentorship, but being the guide that could hold their hand through it, not just the advisor that says, "Okay, here's all the puzzle pieces and then this is how it makes sense." That doesn't light me up in any sort of way. Fast forward a little bit, things were going a good couple of years, hard, super hard, but good. But I was also really shifting a lot within myself. I was doing a lot of healing my inner little girl, like healing from emotional trauma in my childhood in a lot of different ways, healing from religious trauma. I was doing a lot of healing. And I have very specific memories of before I would get on a sales call, like sometimes I'd be screaming into a pillow because sales felt so icky to me in so many ways. I had these visceral reactions to getting on a sales call, to saying the investment to work with me, to every aspect. I had to like, I can even feel it now. I'm like, oh, I remember. I remember the waves of grief, the waves of fear that I had to move through in order to build in those first couple of years, to own my value, to understand who I am. And then starting in, gosh, that was 2023. That was it. My first, in April of 2023, I was called to an ayahuasca ceremony. And I was feeling that call earlier, like earlier 2022. This is crazy. I've never done anything like that. Nothing even remotely close. Never went to a rave, never recreationally did anything. And here I
You went all
am,
in.
all in. Yeah. When people hear that, they're like, that
Yeah.
was your first experience. I was like, "Yeah, that's what was calling." And I didn't have anything to compare it to, but it felt like this is extremely important. And so I went, it was a really beautiful container with a bunch of, or about 7 other women. And we sat ceremony 2 nights, had a breathwork ceremony before. And that, like, all of that, starting from the breathwork, then going into the ceremony, there was such deep emotional healing that happened in that ceremony. And I knew after I came out of that, and part of the integration process, I knew that I was hiding my spiritual self. I was presenting my emotional self and I was presenting my logical self, but I was hiding my spiritual self.
Mm.
And this experience was like showing me so strongly that I needed to be integrated and that I needed to integrate all of me, be accepting and loving of all of my parts, or else the people that I'm serving, they don't have another example. Like, I'm here to be a living example. And if I'm not doing it, then I'm not setting that example that I'm here to set. And for anyone who's familiar with human design, that's written all over my human design as well. And so part of the problem, though, one of the things that made me really nervous was that my husband is very skeptical. He doesn't believe in any astrology pieces. He doesn't understand how the stars could and the planets could affect who we are and how we be in the world. So he had this very negative view on human design because part of it is it's astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the chakra system, and the Kabbalistic tree of life, right? It's all these traditions melded together. And so what I found, especially in 2023, during this time, I was being more of myself. I was sharing human design. I was sharing the connection between prosperity and who you're being and how you're being yourself or not. And I was sharing it online and I was sharing it in masterminds and I was sharing it with clients. But at home, I would shut it all the way off because I didn't feel safe to be seen. And part of it was because when I had shared it a couple of times, I had gotten snarky feedback. I'm going to say, I've been with my husband, it'll be 24 years in the middle of August. We've been married for 19, and we have been through over that time, it's like we've had many relationships, truly. And there was a time starting the business was hard. It was hard on our relationship. And we have 3 children, 14, 12, and 10 now. 4 years ago, they're 10, 8, and 6. They're little. It's a lot of work and it was a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. And in that moment of feeling unseen and unheard and like other people, I could be myself, what felt like more the integrated me with other people, but I couldn't be the integrated me with my husband, was so painful. And it was so hard. And one of the basically what I did was I shared with him that this is really important to me. And I understand that you don't agree, but this has really helped me a lot. And this is really helping others as well. And so when he was able, we had a really deep conversation about that. And he was able to then see how when he had responded snarkily or sarcastically, how much that had hurt and made me just like shut down. And so his first shift was to see that, oh, I see that you're not trying to manipulate or hurt people. That was his worry. It's, oh, people use this kind of stuff to manipulate others. is like the story that he was carrying with it, rather than seeing it as what I truly believe it is, which is a way to know yourself. Like I don't have to manipulate anything. It's just the information is what it is, and then we get to explore it together if you want to. And if someone doesn't want to explore it, that's fine. There's no manipulation needed because the people who want it and the people who don't. And so that was the first piece, was for him to open up and be like, I see that. I see that about you. I see that's another beautiful facet to who you are. And again, because we have been together for so long, because that's such a deep relationship, it was really hard for me to feel like I could overcome that when he was on the detracting side. And I think for a lot of people, and I know this, again, I've several clients who are navigating divorce right now for very similar reasons, that they just can't get on the same page, that they're not seeing each other in the most, what's the word? They're not able to give each other the benefit of the doubt. And there is a point there, I had several, 2 or 3 different points where I was at that place as well. If we can't allow each other to be who we are, then we need to not be together so that we can each really be more of who we are. And for me, and it was at that point, it was like, I felt like I was just hiding. I was masking. I couldn't be me. And it was feeling so painful that I was ready to say, like, it would suck to get divorced, but it sucks more to keep hiding who I am. And I have to make a choice. And to Adam's credit, he really decided, okay, like, I'm not going to do it the way you're doing it. He didn't do all the things that I did, but he found his own way. He found Thich Nhat Hanh, he found mindfulness, he found the Waking Up app, he found so many things that resonated for him so that he could start to understand his emotions and his emotional response and find his way towards mindfulness. And that was the thing that shifted, because it felt like we were just like going in totally separate directions, and I didn't know how to come back together. And I didn't want to shrink myself either, or be, again, not be a fully integrated version of me. And when he started finding these other things, we started having conversations and talking about what things were sparking for him. That was a huge turning point. And then the second turning point was after I had started doing human design, after I had started like really deepening with it. I might have the timeline slightly wrong. We had another like come to Jesus moment. And I was like, if it's not like, things have to shift. We have to be able to connect emotionally. I was feeling very emotionally disconnected. And I offered, it wasn't really an ultimatum, but it was like, I don't want to do marriage counseling, but I will do this container with you. We can do an MDMA journey together. And that, I feel like I was very called to, like, that's how we're going to be able to break through. And he was like, yeah, okay, we'll do that. Yes. And to hear him say it after, he's like, it wasn't an ultimatum. Like, I was interested in that too. It wasn't like you were dragging me into something I didn't want to already do. I was like, okay, good. Thank you. But it was that experience then was actually the most pivotal moment for us as a couple that we've ever had. And that was almost 2 years ago at this point. And we have been able to intentionally maintain that connection for all of the last 2 years. It's literally been the best 2 years of our entire relationship of 24 years at this point, which is, I don't know, it's amazing. I'll pause there.